Hi, everyone. It's Ryan Fowler here with my good friends and fellow hypnotists, Jordan Kurtz and Tim Costello, Inner Game Group Live every Saturday at this time. We're a few minutes late. Forgive us. We have a great show today. Last week, we covered dysfunctional family backgrounds, narcissistic parents, abusive upbringings. And we're focusing more on the healing now, especially a technique we all use all the time. I'd say probably close to 100% of sessions we're going to be doing this, which is inner child work. Very, very, very effective. What is your inner child? Why do we need to nurture it? And what are the benefits of that? So we're going to dive into that today. We have the same therapist being interviewed last week. As this week, it's part two of the series, and it's going to be great because inner child work is and your inner child, extremely important topic. If you nurture your inner child, you are going to do better in every aspect of your life, more or less. So it's gonna be great. But before we dive in, Jordan and then Tim, introduce yourselves. Welcome to the show.
How's it going? My name is Jordan Kurtz. I'm a hypnotist like these two, and I just recap from what we talked about last week. This is a narcissism therapist. We talked a lot about the relationship between the narcissistic parent and the child last week. And so, as Ryan said, we're going to shift more into the inner child work that he describes. And again, as I think I've said many times, I think it's really good to see these ideas that we use in our sessions with clients kind of explained and explained by these other experts that we find, because it's not just us. I know hypnosis is kind of it can appear sort of like a niche or fringe, like woo-woo kind of therapy, and it's like, no, the stuff we do is actually, it's well documented. They're very common concepts, well documented concepts that we use, so that's why we cover it.
Very good. My name is Tim Costello, and I'm with Tim Costello Hypnosis. And along with Ryan and Jordan, getting ready to take over the world and get everybody hopefully squared away. That's it, Ryan. Give it up.
All right.
So when we talk about the inner child, some people think Jordan mentioned the word woo-woo. When you start talking about inner child therapy, most people don't understand what we're talking about. But what we're talking about is that there is a point in your subconscious where your subconscious now is trying to protect you through a series of experiences, abuse, alcoholism, verbal abuse, emotional abuse. I don't know how, you can't say some words on YouTube, but the other physical abuses that are, not good. None of it is good, by the way. And your inner child will be protected by your subconscious. And what comes out of that programming as it's trying to protect you is the ability for you to create things that protect you. And some of those things that are created are anxiety, depression, procrastination, addiction, all the different things that don't serve you and let you go forward. So when we're talking about that inner child, we're talking about that child that essentially was left behind. That inner child, the pure, uncontested, absolutely loving inner child that is in every single one of us, needs to be re-met and re-engaged from the adult standpoint. So through hypnosis, Jordan just disappeared. Once we
he'll be back.
Yeah, you bet. Once we establish and clear some trauma in the adult, we go back to meet that inner child. And that's part of that process of the person healing themselves. We're not doing it. They're doing all the work. We just guide them and we just hold their hand through the whole process and guide them. They can do it later by themselves, but we're there initially to help them through that. So that's what we're going to talk about today, that process of the inner child and forward.
All right. Very good, Tim. And one thing I want to add, Jordan's back. I just need to add him on. One thing I want to add, just like a week ago or something, I had yet another ignoramus say, "Oh, hypnotism is BS and it doesn't work and blah blah blah, and you're stupid for being a hypnotist." And it's just some troll on Instagram. And I know our audience is not that willfully ignorant, but all of these things we're doing, you could just Google it. Just Google even if you believe in hypnotism, but you want to get more, or hypnotherapy, you want to get more information, do a simple Google. Is hypnotherapy or is hypnotism backed by science? Or what is inner child work? Google AI now is actually pretty darn good. It'll give you a good, fairly detailed, but not too long, like a 1-page overview. And none of what we are doing is not backed by a mountain of evidence already. Like
science.
Science. The Stanford University, everyone knows Stanford. It is one of the top 3, sometimes number 1 in the world, psychology. Top 5 neuroscience, top 5 psychiatry in the world. The co-chair of the Department of Psychology is a hypnotherapist. Of the Department of Psychiatry. That is Dr.
Siegel.
Yep. Spiegel. Dr.
Is it Spiegel or Siegel? I forget which one.
I think it's Spiegel.
Oh, Spiegel.
But maybe I'm wrong. So, every now and then it's actually happening less and less. There, it's usually some 18-year-old or 22-year-old who actually thinks they know stuff. And listen, everyone's ignorant of something, but and it's not necessarily, there's things I'm ignorant of, but people who think they know stuff when they obviously don't. So I invite you just to learn more, or even if you have a question mark, and it's okay to question stuff.
So Ryan,
what's up?
Yeah, let me throw down on this exactly what you're saying.
Just do a Google search.
Right.
There's so much information affirming this. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. So
yeah,
hypnosis is nothing more than an intense, focused relaxation. That's all it is. So if you were watching something somewhere, TV, in real life, NFL, somebody doing something, whatever, and you said, man, I was mesmerized. Well, it just so happened that the fellow who started hypnosis and sort of got the practice going was a fellow named Mesmer. That's why we say mesmerized. So if you've sort of focused in really tight and watched something and then pulled yourself away going, whoo, I was really focused on that, you were hypnotized, period. So we just do a thing where we shut your eyes and we just relax your brain, because we need to get the conscious part of your world out of the way to talk to your subconscious. And it works every single time it's tried for someone who's willing to give it a shot.
Yeah. And, we've had how many client interviews either on this show or on the video section. We just did one, 3 weeks ago, where we cured a guy's stuttering, and his interview was on, I think that we put it on this show. And
I think we did.
He was around 3 weeks
Diego.
Yeah, Diego, 2 sessions, and his stuttering 85% gone permanently. So we love this stuff. We're going to keep healing. And I don't mean to cast any sort of negative light, but I'm just invite people who have questions as to whether or not this is backed by science. Do a 5-second Google search. Okay, so moving on. Great show today. You want to cue up that clip? We're going to dive into inner child work.
Yeah.
Jordan?
Yes.
And here we go.
Okay. All right. Where's my mouse?
Legacy to have the best or the healthiest lives they can have is to start by healing the child within you.
Healing the child within you and self-differentiating the adult within you.
Mm.
So we have both those works.
Okay, let's break down both
going
of those.
on.
What would be the and healing the child in you is not an overnight thing. What would be the keys to, whether someone says, I don't need to work on my inner child, that seems like baloney, or just it's not for me. I do a lot of my own work already. I don't need to dive deeper into this stuff. It seems like whatever. But if they were like, let me listen to this and just see what he's talking about, what would be the first 3 keys or steps to addressing how to heal the inner child within us?
Well, and if they would say, I don't need to work on my inner child, I would say, now you've already told me what you don't know. Because if you don't understand that or work that way, you're going to be blinded. Which is your right. I mean,
Live like how you want.
You don't have to do any inner child work. I'm just telling you the way human beings function. And that while it is a construct or a metaphor, the inner child, it is that, but it truly is a part. We are biological. We are biological creatures, and so we have that part of us. I'm never not the 7th grader. I'm never not the 3rd grader. I'm never not the 50-year-old. I'm all of those. And so, but particularly in childhood is where we get a lot of that programming going on that carries over to older ages. And so when we think about, would you know if your inner child wanted you to do something? And if you don't know, do you think that could be problematic?
Probably, yeah.
And many people will go, I don't think I want to work on inner child stuff. That's all psychological mumbo jumbo. Okay, well, that's fine. I mean, you don't have to. However, when you are hypercritical of yourself and very down on yourself, who are you down on? The adult self? The inner child? Probably more likely the inner child, because you're going to act like your parents to the child.
Man,
that's just what we do. And so knowing that can be helpful, because if you become a collaborator with your inner child, it stabilizes you. If you're not, then you're always fighting yourself in business, in success, in money, in jobs, in marriages, in relationships. You're always going to be fighting yourself. And if we talk long enough, I'll prove that to you. I would prove that to you.
Sure.
How that's what's happening.
So when we are in conflict with ourselves or hypercritical of ourselves, whether it be our adult or inner child self, how is that hurting us or helping us?
The thing is, first of all, I might say you're not being your true self. You're being a pseudo self to yourself. You're being the family super self to yourself.
When you're acting that way.
When you're acting that way.
Interesting.
That's not you, but you think it's you. And I'm going, it really isn't.
You're bringing the family.
So anything to add there?
I was thinking of some thoughts.
I got a bunch of little things.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So he's correct in that your pseudo self, if we want to call that fake self, is your subconscious trying to protect you, trying to protect that inner child on the inside from being hurt emotionally or physically. But he really is describing it in a confusing and psychobabble kind of way.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So
Some
you
good
can get
stuff there,
lost really easy in what he's talking about. But what he's saying is the pseudo self, the thing that we're projecting out there to the world daily, could be pseudo, it doesn't have to be, is that person who is struck with procrastination, addiction, anxiety, whatever, and trying to deal with all of the things that are around them. And again, that subconscious is going to create those things, anxiety, depression, self-hate, whatever, loathing, etc., ideation of, deleting yourself, all that kind of stuff, while protecting the inner child. So that's sort of what he's talking about. And in a concrete way, he's right, but it's got a little bit of funny narration.
Yeah. Well, let's let's talk about why we have an inner child, or at least take it from an angle I'd like to point out. So
Go for it.
how our subconscious, we're going to take the subconscious angle. Inner child is all subconscious anyways. But as we are growing up, we're born in this world, we have a little instinct, don't know anything besides that. And our brain is just naturally wired to be a sponge when we're younger and observe everything around us and try to figure things out. And humans in general don't want unknowns or uncertainty. So humans, even if it's a completely wrong explanation, will give some sort of explanation to something rather than stay in uncertainty. And so children, you just notice it all the time. You know, whoa, this happened. Well, maybe it's because of this, or it's a miracle from God, or just, you know, if they can't explain it. All these myths that arose was people, you know, ancient Greek mythology and folklore and all this stuff trying to explain things humans couldn't you know, volcano erupts. Oh, it's a volcano god, you know. So they humans naturally try to ascribe meaning to things instead of just leaving a question mark there. And that's what we do as babies and children. We're observing all these things and saying, what does it mean? What does it mean? And we form beliefs, we draw conclusions, we interpret things, whether they're right or wrong conclusions. We're doing our best to just guess what everything means as we're growing up. These guesses, these interpretations, conclusions become subconscious beliefs. And so if you're 3 years old and you draw a conclusion as a 3-year-old based on something that happened to you, that will get lodged in your brain as a subconscious belief from the point of view of a 3-year-old, and it can solidify at that young an age. And you could be 75 years old with the belief that formed at 3 years old that got lodged in your brain is still there at 75. When you're 8 years old, when you're 6 years old, when you're 12 years old, at different points in our life as we experience more and more going through lives. And this is straight up science. There is so much verification behind this, all the way back to the days of Freud, Carl Jung, all those, you know, all those guys. It's just a mountain of data supporting this model that these beliefs are formed, but they're formed from the point of view of the child at that age. And then they're static in your brain for the rest of your life unless you change them. And so we literally have these this part of our brain where that inner child, it's kind of frozen in time, tied to that belief that formed at that age and is there unchanging now as an adult. And so that's our inner child, these collection of beliefs from the point of view of a child. Literally you when you were a kid. And one of the most tragic things, I think, and it happens all the time, and it happened in my life, is when you have a child growing up and maybe for his entire childhood or just certain parts of his childhood, he's growing up feeling he doesn't have anyone on his side or her side. You know, parents against him or her, doesn't have an ally, kids at school against him or her. And again, it could be someone's entire childhood. It could be just parts of it. And when that happens and the child feels all alone, neglected, unloved, you know, he gets beat up at school and comes home, and then his parents are like, well, what did you do wrong to get beat up? Why didn't you defend yourself? Like they're not taking so no one's taking the child's side. And that's where these really strong defenses, geez, no one has my back. And so they have to find a way to cope, and they come up with these coping mechanisms that work as a child, work in the moment, but are absolutely maladaptive as an adult. You know, maybe as a child, you learned to be safe because no one's on my side. I have to be small and invisible. And that way, no one will pick on me because they don't even notice me. And then now as an adult, you're trying to make friends. You're trying to move up in the business environment. You're trying to find a romantic partner or a life partner to raise children with. But your inner child is like, don't put yourself out there. You're going to get hurt. And that belief from that 5-year-old or whatever age that was when in this example, it's still there. And then you're like, why do I have so much social anxiety? Why, you know, and I'm lonely now, you know, as an adult. And in this is just one of many examples, and you're wondering why you're struggling. Well, why don't you go back and heal that inner child and make that inner child feel safe? And then all of a sudden you feel much safer to spread your wings and now go out. And we've seen it hundreds of times, several hundred times. Just last night, I played I played an audio, and we don't have the guy's permission to play the audio, but I did a session for him, and right after the session, like an hour later, he sent me this audio, and he's like, "What the hell did you do to my brain? I felt so good, and I just reached out to this girl, and I like set this specific date at a specific time, and she's like, okay," and it's like, he's like, "I'm acting completely different now," and it's like, now you get to spread your wings, my friend.
What did he do prior?
He had talked to this girl, and he gave her kind of a vague response they should go out, and then after the session, he felt so good, he's like, "No, I'm gonna be the freaking man," and I'm like, "We're going to Luigi's at 7 p.m. this Friday." Cool. Like, he was just way more assertive now because he didn't have this timid child in him.
Yeah.
Who was scared, had been consoled. He's like, now so and you see these the incels, the black pill, you see them in Japan, they're just in their basement playing video games and they won't even come out of their room, socially awkward, all this, they got wounded inner childs, every single one of them. You make that child feel safe, and now you can go out and spread your wings. But our brain prioritizes keeping us safe over us going out and exploring the world and going after what we want, because you can't do any of that when you're dead, and your brain is literally thinking it to keep you safe. It needs to keep you small and there's other situations too. I'm just talking about, how trauma affects, some people, other people, it makes them a psychopath, right? So we're not talking about everyone here, but this is very, very, very common for, and yeah, you do procrastinate, but then your brain, what's going on there? Your brain is like, well, if you do this, and this, again, just one example, this isn't everyone, your brain may be saying, well, if you do this and you mess it up, your boss is going to look at you and chew you out, and then everyone in the office is going to know you screwed up, and that's going to be horrible. So let's just put it off, or let's try and make it perfect, and let's spend something that takes 3 hours. Let's spend 25 hours on it to make it just right, so then you won't get embarrassed or insulted. Yeah. And it's just based on what happened to you as a kid and the conclusions your brain drew when you were a kid, playing out in real life now in a way that just absolutely stunts you, holds you back. Go back to this part where that wound happened when you were a child and heal it. Give the child the love it needs, and it will let go. And now you can spread your wings. And we've had people could not hold down a job, and now making over $150,000 a year, 3 years later, 4 years later. Couldn't hold down a job 3-4 months and couldn't hold down the job. And now consistently, and that's not their first year they hit six figures. That's just the most recent year. They started hit six figures a year before that. Had a guy living at home, 28-year-old virgin living at home, sales team, second from the bottom, one session, 5 months later. Now he has his own place, dating girls, and number 7 out of 200 instead of second from the bottom.
So he's making some money he can afford to live outside. Yeah.
So you heal your inner child, and now you can spread your wings. Now it's safe.
So let me rephrase differently what Ryan said in a very excellent explanation. If you are not achieving what you think you should be achieving, you've got some behavior that's considered maladaptive. It could be bad self-talk. It could be doubting yourself, a lack of self-esteem, a lack of self-worth, anxiety, procrastination. Everybody procrastinates a little bit, but if you're procrastinating to the point where you never get anything done or can't get ahead or are blaming everybody else or whatever, those are all maladaptive behaviors. If you are exhibiting those, then you've probably got some trauma learned in your childhood that needs cleared, because then all of a sudden, once that roadblock is gone, and it's really weird because everybody says, what will I feel like afterwards? I said, I can't know. I said, but you will know. And as the time goes on, you'll quickly forget what it was like. You'll remember the actions, but you'll forget that emotional trauma, and you'll be trudging ahead like nobody can stop you.
All right. Anything to add, or we should just go?
Go, Jordan.
Yeah,
Go.
yeah, it's something to add. So I liked the analogy he used of you are treating yourself when you're criticizing yourself or trying to give yourself feedback, you are treating yourself the same way that your parents treated you. And so
Absolutely.
I really thought that, because remember, that's the only skill set you have. And so if your parents are super critical, you're inherently you learn that's how he says that's how you're treating your inner child. Well, I would just make it even simpler. That's just how you're treating yourself.
Yep.
Really is.
When we grow up, we
point,
observe
really
what others
point.
do and we copy it, especially parents.
Yeah, really good point. Man, I never even thought about that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very true.
And the other thing I thought he said was like this idea that you're like fighting with yourself. And I think I said that a few times, and we probably all have, but when you're trying to accomplish something, but your subconscious mind doesn't want to do that thing, you're inherently fighting with yourself. And that's what he's describing, is that interaction between your conscious mind wanting to do something, but your subconscious mind saying, no, this is either going to be painful or dangerous or unsafe. And you have to constantly try and override that subconscious with conscious thoughts, but that's constant energy.
That's exhausting.
And endless effort. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so I really like him bringing that up, that if you actually become one with your subconscious mind, when you align your subconscious with what you actually value and your conscious mind, then you don't end up fighting yourself. He kind of used this analogy where you're like going from here to here, right? And it kind of gets all turbulent, right? And so when you clean the subconscious mind, that turbulence goes away.
Yeah. Good point. You know what I love about that is Jerry, in that group that we were watching the video with the Lewis Howells, is he explained the exact same things we're explaining, but I'm telling you, it was very confusing to the average listener. They would come out of that conversation going, what was he talking about again? As good as he is, a nice guy, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's okay, because in these videos, they just bring up points that we then spend 20 minutes expounding on.
Right. Let's keep rolling.
You can understand either them or one of us three, so it's all good.
That's right.
All right. Let's see here. And put this and
trance, Wi-Fi, super self, we call it, because all the family connects to this big super self that's all enmeshed emotionally, and we even know biologically. There's a way to describe it. And that you're not when somebody's going, well, and I'm fine with being hypercritical of myself. I'm not going to look at my inner child, but every time I hear you being self-critical in a negative way, towards yourself, I'm going, why are you not being yourself? Because would yourself do that? And they'd probably go, well, no, I wouldn't. Then where is that coming from? Well, it's just what I've always done. Oh, well, now we're going to what's always been done. Okay, my point.
But what's always been done doesn't mean it's the best way that you can live your life.
Exactly. And all of us have negative parts of all those things. But I want to have less. I want to have less of a pseudo self, less of a non-real self that's me. And all that hypercriticalness is being the family self. That's your family self. And I'm going, you want to be successful by being your family self? And you tell me how bad that all was? You're doing it. You're repeating it right now.
Yeah, you may not be doing this to others, but you're doing it to you.
Right. Yeah, I don't do that to other people. Okay. Do you ever do it to you? Oh, well, yeah, that's how I'm successful, because I'm so critical of myself.
Yeah, it helps me be
It
driven.
helps me
and
be driven and like,
Hormozy.
that doesn't sound
Yep.
like a authentic self.
What do you think it is if our inner child was able to speak authentically 100% of the
Actually,
time
let's just pause
and
it right
say
there.
what our inner child
Yeah.
So I have people say that all the time. You know, they're very critical, but it fuels them forward. I used to have that, just an inner critic, like all the time.
Yeah.
And the people who are super critical do tend to procrastinate certain things and have anxiety over certain things they shouldn't. Sometimes they can have a lot of it. And so what happens is, if you are criticizing yourself all the time, it's causing at some level for you to not feel good, to feel painful. You're shaming yourself. Now, there's different types of criticism. You can say, I'm a piece of trash, I'm stupid and an idiot, or you could just say, oh man, I really need to try harder. So, you know, that latter example, much milder than the former. However, people who procrastinate and do all this other stuff, what is going on is, when you criticize yourself about things you actually want to do more of, your brain over time associates more pain or potential pain with that thing you want to do more of, because it's getting criticized around doing that thing.
Very good point.
And our brain, above all, wants us to avoid pain, including emotional pain. So the more your brain is associating pain with that thing, the more resistance your brain gives you to doing that thing, because it doesn't want you to feel the pain. This is straight up science. I didn't pull this out of my rear. This is like Andrew Huberman level stuff, or high level, you know, university psychology professor will tell you this, because I got this from them. So what you want to do is, anything you want to do more of, if you mess it up, console yourself, encourage yourself, encouragement, give yourself courage. Hey, it's okay. You were trying, keep going. You're going to get better. The more you do it, the better you'll get. Just keep going, man. It's all good. And we work on a subconscious level, but I cover self-talk too, because everyone has self-talk, and repetition over time does partially rewire your subconscious. And so this does all the time we have people paralyzed by procrastination, and we get it down 75%, 95% all the time. Like one session, boom, permanently gone. I mean, I got video interviews on my channel where people are saying that. So we know what we're doing. You know, the reason we speak with so much confidence is because we just see results all the time from our client instantly. Like one session, boom, 2 sessions, boom. So so anything you want to do more of, the more your brain associates pleasure with it, the more you want to do it. The more your brain associates pain with it, the more your brain doesn't want to do it. Now you're procrastinating. So don't criticize yourself. Don't cause yourself pain in connection with anything you want to do more of. Even if you get down on yourself for not doing it, your brain is still then connecting pain still to that event and giving you more resistance to doing it. This is fight or flight system. It's flight. Your brain's like, there's potential pain here. Just don't do it. Even if you criticize yourself for not doing it, that will increase the resistance over time. So just understand that. And that's why you don't self-criticize. Now, one other thing is, I used to do this all the time because I have an extremely hypercritical mother. Like several times a day, finding the time, intentionally scanning the room, looking for the smallest thing she can criticize one of her children for, and then criticizing her children. That's how NPD are, parents. And I grew up doing that to myself, because being very critical of myself, because as children, a lot of what we do is, I don't know what to do. Oh, look, that person's doing that. Okay, I'm just going to copy that, because that's my parent and I idealize them. They must know what they're doing. Just copy it. So a lot of what we do is just copying. As children, we observe and copy. That's why you hear like these little children and all of a sudden they say the F word. It's like, well, they got that from somewhere. They observed someone doing it and now they're doing it, right? So I used to think when I was in the early stages of my healing, I was thinking, well, geez, now I'm treating myself kinder. Now I understand that I can feel good enough just for who I am without having to do anything. And I really had this concern. Well, am I not going to do anything now? Am I just going to become this bum that doesn't do anything because now I don't have this bad fuel of anger and anxiety or like self-criticism, driving me forward? Well, what happened is within 2.5 years, my income went up 2.5 times. I literally went from 70 grand a year to like 160, 170. And after that, it went even higher.
And by the way, they did not increase the hours in a week.
He
didn't get more time.
I was more productive in that time.
He stopped wasting time. Still watched TV, still slept every night, still ate his meals, that type of thing. So the key is that you just become so much more efficient.
More efficient, and also when you have just this better energy, people react to you better. They treat you better.
Absolutely.
And so I was closing a higher percentage of business that came to me. And also because I felt better about myself, I was able to feel good enough to ask for more and charge more. And so, my income went, and I started doing more technical, more advanced projects too, because then I started learning additional skills. And
let me laud another thing that you did. There was a client that came to you, was very high net worth, over 100 million.
Okay.
And you had a video, and we had him on the video. You've got a video on your YouTube channel for it.
Rick. Yeah.
Yeah. And this fellow, you would think, was very productive because he was worth so much. But one of the comments that really grabbed me afterwards was, I'm making more now.
Working less.
Make more, right? And he's working less.
Yeah.
Which means, I think of Alex Hormozy and the mantra of you have to work 100 hours a week to be successful. You don't have to, but you can, right?
Yeah.
So this very high net worth individual went from working a lot and now working less, making more, and spending more time with his family, which quite frankly is the ultimate wealth.
Yeah, man. So there are people, it's fairly common for critical people, self-criticism, to think that's their fuel. I'm talking from experience, you'll actually do even better without it. You'll do better without.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. I'm going to go back to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All righty.
Child truly wants and desires, and it had a voice, what would our inner child be saying all the time?
I'm always so happy that I am loved now. I'm always at peace because I'm not in conflict now. I'm always looking forward to new adventures now. Because it's life as it should be. And those kind of statements, if you're talking about the inner child talking, and thank you so much for getting the family out of you.
Interesting.
And that we can just be us. We can just be a real us.
How does someone learn how to get the family out of them, the family dysfunction out of them, while also being a part of the family?
I want to learn to remain connected, which is what we call kind of emotionally connected. And I am going to be myself.
Yes. Which I think a lot of people struggle with their parents or family.
And when somebody says, so I'm going to tell you something, I want you to go home and tell your family or your parents this holiday or whenever you're going to see them. How would you feel about doing that? Like you want to change the date of when you get together for Christmas, or how comfortable do you feel going and telling them that, and this is your preference? Oh my gosh, that's going to be a mess. And this could be a president of a company. who runs people all the time, but he's going to go home and tell mom and dad, don't want to do, Christmas at the same time we've always done it. Oh my, you're gonna. That's why we so become children when we go home.
Okay, let's stop there for a second.
And many people.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah. So what Jerry is talking about is establishing and fortifying your inner game. Your inner game is that you love yourself, you can get what you want, you belong to yourself, right? You belong to your inner child, you know your inner child, you're both happy, you're not mad or angry at anybody. Literally, the rage, resentment, anger is just completely gone from your life and you're at peace. And you feel very safe and secure. Once you create that inner game, now what Jerry's talking about is either including or excluding those people that you don't want to be around because they might trigger you and damage you, is you build a frame from within what you work. So, and it's not like you're out of my frame, get out of here. It's none of that. It's just you now choose to not associate with those who might damage you or not have your best interest. And you've always heard the term, always hang around people much smarter and more successful than yourself. Those are the people you're going to start letting inside your frame. Why? Because they're going to move you forward. They're going to teach you things. They're going to challenge you, etc. And that association builds your inner game even more solid and even strengthens that frame that you're working within. So you're not worried about missing that Christmas dinner because they always did it at Christmas or whatever. All right, fine. Do without me. I appreciate it, but I got this to do, right? You're going to do your thing. There's what I'm going to say there. And you guys can throw down.
Yeah, I'll just add to that, Tim, that it's not always black and white. Sometimes you just limit contact. Sometimes you just distance. You're still in their lives, but it's more distanced. Or maybe when you're with them, you just share things won't cause a problem, and they don't get to hear your other thoughts and opinions and parts of who you are that they may judge. They lost that right because they're too critical.
They didn't behave.
So yeah, they didn't behave. They didn't treat you with respect. And so, okay. So it's not always black and white. Yes, there are absolutely times. I mean, in the last 3 years, I've had, I don't know, 2-3 people I've just gone straight up no contact with. One person I distanced myself from, kind of half contact, half no. And then great human beings like Jordan, Tim, his wife Carrie, other people that just although I don't see Carrie enough, other people just really I keep close to me because they're just such fantastic people and we benefit each other. So it is hello the new next, how you doing this week?
What's up, TNN?
And I know his name, I just don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but anyways. So yeah, it's not always so black and white of in or out, but definitely sometimes completely out. Yeah. Sometimes just limit contact, use your judgment, and then treat the good people really good and keep them close.
I was gonna say about the CEO, like him, the CEO being like super assertive and confident when he's in that role at his company, but then he goes home and he's like, I don't want to ask my mom and dad to change plans last minute. I don't feel comfortable with that. And he's like, you become a child. And that's those subconscious programs rearing their head from the family dynamics from being a kid. So it's almost, and I could almost see a scenario where you almost become the CEO so that you don't have to listen to anybody else. It's almost like you're like, well, look, if I become that, then nobody can tell me what to do except for these people. They still have that belief. They've just manufactured a life where they have to listen to almost nobody, but they're still struggling with that subconscious program. Not that there's anything wrong with becoming a CEO necessarily, but saying the driving factor is I'm just afraid of other people ruling my life. So I'm going to organize my life so that I don't have to listen to anybody else. And so I find that's probably a very, very common is you'll have people that are, I think that's kind of almost a TV trope, right? Is you have like some adult who's like super kick ass, or but their mom or dad will enter the picture and like they instantly become this child again. And so it's I don't know if you've watched the show Andor from Star Wars, but there's one.
Yeah, that's a great show. I only watched the first season. Are they on season 2 or 3 or 4?
Yeah, they just finished season 2. Highly recommend.
Season 1 was awesome. I might sign up for Disney just for that and then immediately cancel a month later.
But my point in that was
that is like the best Star Wars TV show that I know of.
Andor. What's it called?
Great. Andor. Very, very, very good.
Andor.
Yeah. And man, if the Mandalorian didn't go to crap, that would have been my number one, because Mandalorian started out so strong, but Andor is great.
I would have to disagree with that, but we can debate that later.
You don't like the Mandalorian at all? No. It was either the end of season 1 or season 2 when Luke Skywalker came in, which was like
so lame.
One of the best
terrible
scenes in Star Wars history.
It was one of the lamest scenes. One of the most key jangle. Anyway, well, we'll debate.
All right, agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree.
You're out of my frame now.
But the point of that was like your parents can kind of shift the dynamics. Like if you have the subconscious programs around your family about how you're supposed to act around these people, your behavior will change based on whether or not you're around them. So, and by healing your inner child, of you becoming your own parent, as this doctor's talking about, or this therapist is talking about, you now that you won't change your behavior when around those people anymore.
Yeah. I have to say, last Christmas, my dad told me to do, he was being very petty and told me to do something that a grown man should not maybe tell a child to do, his child, but not an adult. And I just told him, Dad, don't tell me what to do. Not on that. Sorry. And I was actually kind of proud of myself, because I'm like, yeah, I'm not a little kid anymore. I'm a grown man. And if I have to assert my boundaries, I do. So respectful, but if someone disrespects me, whether they're parent or anyone else, I will stand up for myself, and that's how it should be. And I didn't like go off the handle and say, you piece of crap, or anything like that. I just said, yeah, don't tell me. That's not something where it's appropriate to tell me what to do. I'm not a 2-year-old. I literally told him that too. I said, I'm not 2 years old, Dad. Don't tell me what to do, especially about that. And just left it.
That's it.
And it's just so for me, it's kind of a proud moment. It's like, oh, look, I'm grown up now. 10, 15 years ago, would not have done that.
It's funny is I've got a couple of aunts that are sort of out on that NPD wing of the hospital.
Oh boy.
And when I get around them, they still try to treat me like I'm 12.
Yeah.
Homie, don't play that game no more.
Yeah, exactly.
It shocks them a little bit. They're sort of like, they're 84 and I'm 64. So it's like, I'm not 12 anymore. It's not like you're 34 and I'm 12. It's, it's not the same anymore.
Sports Talk Podcast, going to be a Mandalorian movie. I'm watching it.
That's Kevin.
Okay. Okay. I see the pic. Awesome, bro. As long as it's not woke, I'll wait for the reviews first. If Disney pulls another Snow White, then I'm not watching it. Otherwise, I'm totally there. So,
yeah, I won't.
I'm not watching the She-Hulk movie. Sorry.
Yep.
All right, we're good to go. Keep going.
Yeah.
We'll say that when I get home, I just feel like I'm back in junior high, or I'm back in, my parents treat me this way, and here I am, the president of GM or whatever, and
they're still babying
They're still babying me and think I'm an idiot, and it bothers them. And I would help them learn for it not to bother them. That's them. They're not you. Enmeshment is I am you and you are me. Non-enmeshment is you are you and I am me. I am not you and you are not me. And we can have a relationship. And that's a healthy relationship. Because this is not a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
This is not a healthy relationship. This is a healthy relationship.
Mm.
And you need space. You need distance and space to have closeness.
Interesting.
This, you can't have closeness. You're over close. This is over distant, probably because you're over close
Mm.
and you can't have closeness.
That's so interesting you say this, Jerry, because and for those
Boy,
that
that almost
Yeah.
made sense.
I remember, Tim, last week you had a comment on that if you wanted to bring that
I
up
forget
now.
what it was, but it just
Just
was just funny
the-
that
Something about the analogy in and of itself.
yeah, it was a weird. It's one of those. How about I help you clear your inner game, meet your inner child, get rid of the rage, and then you have a solid inner game and you build a frame with which to work. You don't have to worry about this wide, this close, all that kind of stuff. You will put people where they need to be in their relationship with you. Like Ryan said, I'm sure
That sounds
Ryan,
great to me.
yeah, I'm sure Ryan loves his parents.
Yeah, I
Right?
don't want to tell him don't tell me what to do.
Right. But you know,
But
they
if they
raised him, they
disrespect me,
fed
I
him,
need to be respected.
they did a lot for him, and they did a little bit against him that didn't help in the long run, that he's cleared, but he still loves his parents.
Yeah, I still go home for Christmas.
Right. But they now have to act in a certain manner to be acceptable to Ryan, because
Yeah.
Ryan's not going to put up with little things. And Ryan doesn't go up there to put them in their place, but slowly but surely, as their relationship develops, he's able to show them where the boundaries are and where his frame is, so that he can still love them, yet they have to behave a certain way around him, because that's acceptable to Ryan. He's got a solid inner game now. And I'm joyous at that, because I would never want him to separate from his parents, you know, somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, somehow. So
I called her on Mother's Day. I'm getting them gifts on birthdays, things like that.
the lady gave you birth. I mean, greatest gift of all, right? So she's got her own issues. Maybe one day she'll get cleared. I don't know, but whatever. Ryan knows how to build that frame, has built that frame, and now can operate within that frame.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I said earlier that there are people where they're not all the way out. It's not black or white, but to
Right.
protect yourself, sometimes it's somewhere in the middle where they are just at more of a distance, but they're still in your life.
Yep.
Yeah. And so use your judgment, listen to your gut, etc.
I think what he's meaning by this, he keeps using his fingers, right, to be like this close, not this wide. I think he's talking about like not being this interdependence upon the parents' validation or acceptance and things like that. So if you are, I think what he's really describing is like a healthy boundary between what they say
absolutely.
and what
Yeah,
how you
exactly.
react.
I just think it's funny how he does it, because he goes, you can't have closeness. You're too close. But wait a minute. If you're too close, you have closeness. Anyway, funny play on words.
I'm sure some people will like this analogy, though.
Absolutely.
It resonates. You know, I'm a fan of different explanations.
Me too.
All right.
Strokes
keep
for different
going.
folks.
I just have to laugh at some of them.
Mhm.
Listening and not watching and not able to see the hand gestures. You're talking. You had your hands together, enmeshed, versus far apart, and then closer together but not touching. It's interesting because I left home at 13, and I begged my parents to send me away to a private boarding school that was about 7 hours away. Begged them for a summer, and they did not want me to leave. But I knew my parents loved me, but I didn't feel emotionally safe in the house because of their relationship.
Right.
My father was there for me. My mother was there for me at different times, but they weren't there for each other. I was sexually abused by a man that I didn't know when I was 5. It wasn't anyone in the family, thankfully. And then my brother went to prison when I was 8 for 4.5 years. My older brother, 11 years older. So that was just a challenging season of life that the family dynamic faced. And my parents just weren't, they shouldn't have been married, essentially. They were just not happy in their marriage. They did their best, they tried, but they eventually got divorced when I was a teenager.
And I do say parents are doing the best they can
100%.
with the paradigm they have been given.
From their origin and everything
From their
else.
origin and everything else. But I'm not excusing them from any bad behavior.
100%. But as a 12 and a half year
Stop
old,
that right there.
Yeah.
Pretty please. So what he said is true. Within the paradigm, they're doing the best they can. However, we can step out of the paradigm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it is a process, number one, to realize you're in a paradigm, to realize the paradigm isn't working, and to realize it's causing pain, causing problems, and then to find a way to get out. That's a process that could take years. Maybe you get lucky and you find, I've had people at 18 do a session and we fix them at age 18. How fortunate are they?
Yep.
But, I went to therapy for 15 years on and off, 100 sessions, normal therapy, looking for a solution. It was just a less effective. It did help, but it was a less effective solution. I found this at age 38. So, but I was searching. You finally find it. So you can, have this aha moment. Hey, this isn't working. Hey, I am in pain. Hey, here's all this stuff that, it seems normal, but I'm miserable, and have that awakening, then search for a solution. You can step out of the paradigm. It may take years to find this stuff, but you can do that. You can. So they're doing the best within their paradigm. But if you're in pain, start that path of seeking a new paradigm. You can do it. Might take years, but you can absolutely do it.
You can do it.
You can do it.
You can do it. Isn't that from Zoolander? Do it.
Yeah,
Do it.
it was Rob Schneider. Or no, it was
Starsky and Hutch.
Waterboy. You can do it.
Do it.
I think that same Rob Schneider character is in like 4 or 5 movies.
Yeah.
That same bit.
Yeah, he is. All right, onward and upward.
Wanted out. Get me out of here. I want to be around better environment, better friends, better everything. And I went from enmeshed to, as far away as I could be. And over the years, I've had to relearn how to get closer, but not, not too far, but not enmeshed, but closer, because I would go months without talking. And I felt safe being alone because I felt unsafe being enmeshed. And again, I knew my parents loved me and they showed up for me and they went to my games and they did the best they could.
Right, they did. Right.
But it was just like with the life experience I had, I didn't know how to navigate the emotional unsafety that I felt from their lack of love with each other and the chaos it felt like it was having. And so it was years of unlearning, of healing, of all these different things to self-differentiate from my childhood and from certain people in my family so that I could love myself and love them for who they are.
We have
And
to
just
accept them
really
for who
quick
they
pause.
are. And
So this gentleman on the right, Lewis Howes, that's a guy who stepped out of the paradigm. And
Yes.
he's describing the process. Yes, it can take years. If you get really lucky and you get just like, real high level therapist or expert, yeah, you can step out much quicker. But most people, you're just some guy searching for help. You don't know who the good and bad is, So it can take years to search. It can be a process, but here's a guy right here stepped out of the paradigm, which does, I forgot the therapist's name, does somewhat counter what the therapist said. That they're doing the best they can, because the best you can is to get out of that paradigm. Although it
Jerry
can
Wise.
take time. Yeah. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
So keep going.
And also, the other thing is, this is what I will also tell people. If you accepted your parents just the way they are, what relationship would you like to have with them? but you have to accept. Well, I'd get along better if they would do.
They changed. Yeah.
They are
You can't control
exactly who
that.
they are, and they're not,
Not
going to
gonna
change.
change.
What
Yeah.
relationship do you want to
Don't
have?
count on them
Oh.
changing.
Do you know you can do that in marital work too?
Really?
Your wife or husband's not going to change. What relationship do you want to have with him? Well, we're here so that changes. Oh, so you came here to work with me to change him. Oh, well, at least I know now what our goal is and what you were planning on.
Yeah, the impossible goal.
The impossible goal, and you're going to find me to be a very inadequate coach, and he's going to fail, and it's going to be a mess.
So instead of trying to change our parent or change our spouse for what we don't like about them, what should we be trying to do instead to create a healthier relationship with them?
What if you were to mom sits down or dad sits down or whatever, and they're at the table and you have coffee and go, what was it like when you grew up? What was it like in your family? What did you like about it and what did you not like about it? I'm being a researcher. Now I've just changed emotional location with them. I'm no longer the little child who they're going to. Now, they may say, oh, wow, we don't want to talk about any of that. Okay, well, I just wanted to ask. I'm not going to make them do it, but I'm now an adult and treating them as an adult. Hey, what was it like during the war? What did my parents would be older and what was it like going through the Depression and those kind of things? Because I've changed my emotional location, I'm no longer this little boy and they're these parents that are now they have to talk to me like an adult because I'm asking an adult thing and I'm asking something about them. And that I've changed something that has changed, that will change the dynamic. And there are many other ways to change the dynamic too, to learn how to, even if it's I remember my own example of, I was a pastor for many years and my father died. It fell on me to give who's going to give the family prayer at the meal? Well, it's going to be, I'm the youngest, but I was the only one who was in religious circles in that way. So it has to be me. And mom assumed it would be me. I didn't want to do it.
Really? Even though you were in the
Even though that was, I'm not the family's pastor.
Right.
I'm Jerry. I'm not
You're the youngest.
I'm the youngest. Why
I'm
am
the
I?
baby.
Because everyone just wanted it to taken away from them. So I told mom several times before the meal, I don't wish to do this. That's not my preference. And she just ignore it.
Yeah.
And no,
just do it anyways. Yeah.
Just do it anyway, and blah blah blah.
Let's pause there for a second. We're at an hour.
Yeah.
And I like that comment by Global. Pretty sure most are alone in the process. Let me comment probably two things on that. One is it is you that you need to fix. It is you that you need to heal. It is you that will benefit from all of the healing that you're going to do with yourself. So alone is a decent descriptor. However, guys like us, Ryan, Jordan, and myself, we are there to hold your hand through the process so that you're not completely alone. But at the end of it, you don't need us anymore. Once you're all healed up and you got your inner game going, we're not here for another 20 years of sessions. Maybe you need another session, or maybe you do some self-hypnosis to clear other things that popped up after we were done. So you're never alone. You've got the information, but you do need to meet three people. Your current you, clear the trauma from that person, go meet your inner child, and then visualize your future with the excellent you, right? You are going to be a single merged group of awesomeness, and you can be alone because you'll be freaking awesome alone. And then you'll figure out who you want to add to your frame so that you're not alone.
Okay.
My thoughts were that it's funny. I've noticed when people want to avoid that confrontation, I've had this experience many times from certain people in my life where I'm like, well, I don't want to do this thing. I'm like, oh, well, we'll see. Like they kind of don't get, it's kind of, they kind of push you into like a covert contract by sort of not giving you a clear answer. And that's it's an indicator of like, they're trying to avoid the confrontation, but they're just trying to get you to kind of go away. And so he doesn't, I mean, maybe we'll get to it next week if we want to do part 3 of this, because it's just so dense. I think it's so great. But the story basically finishes with him saying, hey, you know, they get to the table and he's like, all right, Jerry's going to do the prayer. He's like, no, I'm not. I told you several times. And so,
yeah, I wish he would have said, I'm sorry, I'm not willing to do that. Not, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
There's a difference. I'm not willing to means I'm not doing it, just so you know.
Yeah. Although I could still see a scenario where she says, we'll see. Like I could still see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we will see. We're going to be sitting at the table and I'm not going to be saying the prayer. Let's find out.
Everybody's going to get really hungry.
Yeah, let's just all sit around and let's see me not doing it, you know.
Yes. I think that's a sign of somebody that's uncomfortable with generally conflict. And so if you ever get like, if you find yourself in a scenario with somebody like that, like a boss that isn't being intentionally vague about like, you're not gonna put me on this project, right? Oh, you know, well, we'll see. But
there may be other opportunities.
Yeah. It's like that kind of vagueness, I think I've learned to like hone in on, because if somebody doesn't give you a very precise answer, they're probably trying to hide something from you.
Yeah.
I would say though that, let's say I'm a boss and someone asked me that, you know, we'll see. It's okay to say there's some variables here I'm not aware of. I'm going to need to figure it out. And once I figure that out, then I'll let you know whether you're on the project or not.
Yes,
I don't have enough information now to say whether you will be the best fit or not. If you are the best fit, yes, I will use you, but I'm not sure yet. I need to find more information. So now at least you know the full thought process of why he can't give you a definitive answer right now. And I would respect a boss who, you know, I remember I was growing up, why should we do this, Dad? And he's like, because I said so. I would respect a boss that says, I can't give you a solid answer yet, and here's why. I would respect that.
Yep. Agreed.
But at least he did the best he could. Oh, we'll see. You know, instead of intentionally keeping it vague. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to wrap it up then?
All right. So anything final to add, Tim? Thank you everyone for your comments, for coming in. Nice little Star Wars discussion we had. So
I've got nothing to add. We'll probably cover part 3 of this next week, because this guy does talk about a lot of great stuff.
Okay. So you know, the big frame here is you don't have to stay in your paradigm. And also really big takeaway, accept others for who they are. I'd say the number one reason relationships fail is people spend too much time trying to change the other person, not enough time trying to change themselves for the better. And you can step out of your paradigm, and, you know, you can accept others for who they are. A lot of times people are trying to change and manipulate others to give them what they need, when the truth is you can give it to yourself. Validation, love, approval, all those other things, heal your core. You can do it. You have the power. Believe it or not, you do, because you truly do have more power than you know. That's our show. Thanks, everyone. Bye.